Namaskar and welcome to another masterclass with Mauli Rituals. Thank you for joining. This is the third class that I am taking with Mauli Rituals, and thank you very much for following the classes. In the first one, we were mostly talking about the basic principles of Ayurveda, how to understand doshas as more like a lens rather than looking at it as body type or some um, physically present aspect of your body. We were also seeing its application in the form of diet in the second masterclass and trying to understand Ayurvedic diet beyond Indian cuisine and trying to understand how we can apply it as well. Now, in the first two of the classes, we were dedicating more into understanding food, more into understanding the basic principles. In the next two classes, in the two remaining master classes, we are going to explore its practical application in terms of disease management, treatment of illnesses, etc., which is one of the most important aspects which we learn with Ayurveda. Now, we've always understood Ayurveda as a lifestyle. We've also understood it as treating health issues using natural methods, plant-based medicines, or naturally occurring minerals, etc. So uh, when I thought about talking about application, I wanted to sort of create an awareness on what we are actually treating and who we are treating. Both of these are extremely important in an Ayurvedic point of view. The treatment, as you might already know, is not always just towards the symptoms. It's more towards the doshas, and it's more towards the underlying imbalances and root cause behind the scene. So for a single symptom, it can be different treatment for different individual based on the actual cause factors and what kind of imbalance is existing in that particular person. So I don't want to just list a few symptoms and give you uh, home remedies, but then today's topic is home remedies and application. So we need to understand what we are trying to treat very clearly before attempting to learn some very simple, very easily useful remedies for common ailments. Now, first, the disease formation process. How is a disease developing inside any person's body or mind is very, very clearly, very logically explained in Ayurveda. It's so interesting that by the time a person has an illness which manifests as, say, tissue related changes, or which can be visible with um, actual symptoms, Ayurveda understand it as already in stage 5. There are different stages in the process of disease development, and it's important to understand because we will know where to apply home remedies. So home remedies are sort of applied it up to a certain level of disease formation. Beyond that, they won't be suitable because most home remedies looks at treating the symptoms where it is, or treating the doshas where it has manifested, not looking at moving the toxins or eliminating the toxins, which comes as panchakarma, which is the topic of our fourth masterclass, the next one. So today we will look at diseases which are manifested due to the first few stages of disease development. We'll talk quickly about disease development as well, and then we understand where to apply these home remedies and why home remedies also. But before going into disease development, it is important to mention that until recently, say about 100 or 150 years ago, uh, Ayurveda didn't sort of exist as a institutional practice done from a hospital or a clinic setting. Ayurveda was majorly applied in everyday life by an elderly person in a joint family who knows what to use and who knows how to make an assessment whether this is suitable to treat at home or whether it needs to be taken to an expert. And most cases will be identified before it progresses into a deeper level where an expert treatment is required. And home remedies are mostly applied at a very early manifestation level, and treatments are quite easy. And until very recently, I think Ayurveda, majority of Ayurveda existed like that. And my personal experience of interacting with Ayurveda in my childhood also comes from my own family and how it is applied when somebody gets cold or cough or stomach ailments, etc., which is taken really seriously. And you follow a certain routine, you follow certain herbs or certain home remedies, and because of that it is not allowed to progress into more deeper manifestations or syndromes and different inflammatory symptoms, etc., based on the actual imbalances causing it. So it's very important to understand that home remedies are not like simple um, uh, things to treat very simple ailments. These are remedies which, if we identify an ailment to be in its starting stage, will be effective in preventing something even more serious, which could manifest in the future if this symptom is ignored. So saying that home remedies are not that uh, simple remedies, they are very efficient, very valuable information. Now, the stages of disease formation. Now, disease doesn't originate suddenly with one particular reason, or it's usually a collective of different reasons. And also it looks at whether there is a sort of a underlying imbalance, or also it depends on what kind of environmental influences. So there are so many factors, but Ayurveda understands that doshas mainly reside in certain spaces in our body, like generally, depending on function and structural aspect, um, the vata dosha is mainly residing in sort of our extremities, as well as mainly the intestine, large intestine, colon, rectum. So the organs just below our navel, and pitta mainly is situated between navel and chest. So the area which is very significant in terms of metabolic changes, hormones, enzymes, pancreas, liver, adrenals, all of this comes under it, and it's sort of a chemical powerhouse in our body. uh, Above the chest region, towards the head, is the kapha position, where kapha is mainly manifested as mucousy coating over our digestive membrane, respiratory membrane, or presence of high fat content in a way inside our brain. All of this is together the kapha representation, the predominant kapha representation. So stage one of a disease is mostly connected to our digestive system and manifest as simple as through cravings. Say, for example, if kapha is manifesting higher, then the person tends to crave for, say, spicy or a little bit sort of astringent kind of, or bittery flavors. And higher pitta would create a craving for sweet flavor, or bitter and astringent as well, um, and create an aversion towards too spicy or too sour acidic kind of flavor. Vata aggravation usually creates an affinity towards sweet, sour, salty, sometimes predominantly salty as well. And its increase usually creates an aversion to the remaining three flavors, which is spicy, bitter, and astringent. So an affinity and aversion, it's not just towards taste, depending on where it is manifested. It can be towards temperature. Say if your coldness is increased, you will try to stay away from cold. We will try to stay warm, try to stay away from cold liquids. So being vata person, vata is creating dryness in the system, but at the same time, because of the coldness, with vata imbalance, that person is not attracted towards cold water, so that creates further dehydration and dryness. So it's important to identify these cravings and what might be causing it, to counteract it. So in that case, where it's related to coldness and aversion to cold water, they should be mindful of it and try and include more warm liquids in the form of herbal teas or just simple warm water. So understanding and listening to your body is the treatment for the first stage of a disease. Since I'm not going into very much of the depth of the stages of disease, or in Sanskrit it's known as samprapti, vikatana, and samprapti stages. Uh, I'll quickly say stage 2 is more like manifesting in the digestive system, like vata creating bloatedness or constipation like symptoms, pitta creating more acidity, burning sensation kind of symptoms, and kapha creating more mucousy, um, like heavy digestion like symptoms where appetite will be slightly lower. In stage 3, this tends to sort of manifest, it goes into a stage of prasara, where it goes outside its own location, can spread throughout the body. Symptoms can manifest anywhere, not just in its dosha's own location. um, Systemic symptoms like vata creating dryness, pitta creating systemic general dryness, pitta creating more feeling of warm sweating, etc. um, Kapha creating more sort of oily skin or heaviness, swelling or water retention, etc. can happen. So that's sort of stage 3. Stage 4 is where the overall systemic imbalance. So there is overall dryness, and it is creating an symptom of, say, if we are taking vata, there is an overall dryness symptom happening in the body. But that's stage 3. Stage 4, it goes into sthana samsraya, where it manifests in one weak point. So for example, if it's vata imbalance, dryness is manifesting generally, it's been ignored, then what happens is the manifestation concentrates on a weak point. Say if somebody had previous injuries or maintains a very not so healthy posture, sits for a very long time, or has less sort of strength and movements, or less exercise, tends to manifest in the bones and joints and create sort of aches and pains. The symptoms will manifest in some specific location, mostly the weaker area. It could be gut, it could be bones and joints, but there won't be any tissue changes. So if at this stage you go to the doctor, they do some kind of investigation using a camera or a scanner or anything, your tissues are still intact, you're experiencing it. This is sort of a very tricky stage where actually the disease is started, the manifestation is visible, but there are no tissue changes. This is stage 4 sthana samshraya. And in sthana samshraya, a lot of us goes for medical help, but unfortunately it's not very well addressed because there is no changes which is visible. The blood tissue, or if you take blood parameters, they will all be normal, but you will still be experiencing symptoms. Up till this stage, it is stage 4. In stage 5, it's called Vyakti. Vyakti stage, it takes a particular character. Tissues begin to change. At this stage, if you go to a doctor, they do an investigation. It becomes clear, visible. The diagnosis is quite easy and straightforward. But you have lost 4 checkpoints or opportunities to prevent this disease from happening. So it is hence really important to understand disease formation. It is also important to understand that once it reaches 4, 5, and the 6th stage, final stage is Pheda, which means complications arising as a result of these imbalance. Say, for example, bone degeneration or vata presence in the bone leading to muscle wasting or weakness in muscles, etc. So there could be different kinds of complication based on the particular illness. So once it reaches that stage, you need to introduce some form of elimination and cleansing method to bring and mobilize the doshas, and also to eliminate excess toxins developed due to a long-standing imbalance. Whereas stage 3, up to stage 3, or even up to the beginning of stage 4, you could do some sort of management by uh, self-management using simple home remedies. So that's where we need to understand that some illnesses don't create tissue related changes until it reaches that much severity. And these remedies which we are going to discuss today generally is aimed at those. And second characteristic of not just the stage of the disease, second important characteristics of a home remedy, or a kind of a first aid remedy, is that they're not the best kind of treatment possible for that ailment or symptom, but they are sadhya phala chikitsa. In Charak Samhita, it's mentioned that sadhya phala means, usually Ayurvedic treatment has this bad name that it takes longer time to heal, and it takes longer time to resolve issues, chronic health issues. So these are treatments which has an immediate impact. tends to resolve the symptom immediately because we understood the stage. It's quite in a beginning stage of the illness and we are precisely managing it. So it's not just about symptom management, it's about precision management using simple ingredients and trying to resolve things before it goes further. So it's Sadhya Phala, quick acting remedies, these home remedies. Now, sources of home remedies from my childhood itself, I've seen that there are sort of main areas from which these home remedies are available. There will be a stock cupboard of um, commonly used herbs and plant medicines combination. Most houses in South India, which will include some kinds of medicated oils, a few herbal powders. But beyond that, I think most of the remedies come from the garden, fresh herbs and things which are present in the kitchen garden or the inside garden, where there will be some common herbs, like for example aloe vera or basil, holy basil, or tulsi. There could be other herbs depending on the weather and where we are at the moment. Could be caraway, lovage, things like that can be, lavender, things like that can be used from the garden. Then other than the cupboard and the garden, the third, which is most important source of almost all home remedies, will be our spice rack, kitchen spice rack, where we have all the spices used in the cooking. Most of them are quite quick acting, very easy to get, and since they are used to for our body, they don't actually take a lot of effort for the system to accept and understand and assimilate. So these are usually the main sources of these remedies. Good to sort of stock up on things if you are not very commonly using spices and herbs or don't normally cook. It's usually good to create an Ayurvedic, almost a first aid kit, which will include some things from the fresh garden. Say dried leaves are also equally good. If you stock some, you could sort of keep the regular spices like turmeric, ginger, clove, black pepper, things like that. In the cupboard, you could store ghee, coconut oil. You could also store honey, uh, rock salt or Himalayan pink salt. Some very easily available herbs like triphala or licorice root powder, things like that, or licorice powder. Tea bags can be stored. So that's basically the introduction. Now I'll share a few home remedies. I think a lot of these are quite simple and quite sort of commonly used. So I'm going to sort of talk about digestives. Digestion related symptoms are most common first symptom for most major health issues related to not just metabolism, hormones, weight, water retention. A lot of further issues originate from our gut, our digestive system. So if we understand and balance it off in the first stage, it'll be quite sort of a strong preventive measure. So there are two major kinds of remedies depending on what kind of issue it is. Mainly, I think if we talk about indigestion, stomach cramp and stomach pain, which are originating, say, as a reaction to a certain kind of meal or heavy meal, or as a reaction to generally as a reaction to say something which is not properly cooked, etc. You can treat it at home. If it's a reaction or allergy or intolerance, definitely the first line will be to avoid that and see if that's helping. But there are two kinds of digestives, basically, like broad classification in Ayurveda. One is called Deepana and other is called Pachana. Deepana means that it ignites the digestive fire that's already existing. So sort of improves appetite, improves digestion. And Pachana is irrespective of your um, sort of digestive system. It sort of enhances the breakdown, metabolism, absorption. So they're sort of like adjuvants with food. Pachana always acts more on the food itself, and Deepana acts more on the digestive fire. So its impact is sort of slightly more long term. So I think common Deepana medicines are like the herbs are like gingery teas, or what I would normally very commonly give is ajwain. Ajwain is lavage seeds, which taste like caraway. Caraway looks like tiny cumin seeds, quite easily available nowadays. online in whole food stores, etc. You can prepare a tea. This is usually a very good treatment for vata imbalance, bloatedness, indigestion, etc. It is sort of like a teaspoon, flat teaspoon of tea, like a weak tea. If you prepare it in like 750 ml or like a good flask, something like a big flask like this, and then keep sipping it through the day, it'll be quite good to ignite the digestive fire and make sure that the system is not clogged up, blocked, or dry. Most vata related symptoms can be easily dealt with. Pachana, things which are post digestion. Say if you had a heavy meal, it's not digested, you feel heavy, feel discomfort. Um, I think there are two examples of good pachana herb. It's not remedies. One is like a buttermilk, a thin buttermilk. If you're all right with dairy products, the buttermilk can be prepared. Traditionally, it's prepared from like a um, soured cream by removing the butter part of it. The remaining water is buttermilk, or you could just make it from regular yogurt by adding like 5 to 6 fold regular water, churn it properly, mix it properly to break it down into smaller molecules, and add a little bit of, again, this ajwain or cumin seed powder, a little bit of Himalayan rock salt, and consume it post meal. It's sort of regular practice in South India, especially in Kerala, to have feast like heavy meal, with rice and different vegetables, and it ends with a what we call as more, which is spiced buttermilk, which aids the digestion. If you are not very keen on dairy or not very sure how to prepare buttermilk or don't like the taste of it, uh, another digestive commonly used is rasam. It's a watery soup prepared from mung beans or split red lentils, and the main digestive content in it is a spiced soup, and the main digestive content in it is tamarind. Tamarind is Garcinia, and it's quite a good digestive. It aids the process of peristaltic movement happening inside the digestive system, and again, more suitable post meal. There are different recipes of rasam. Some may include tomato and red chili, etc. That's not recommended as a home remedy for indigestion. I think it'll be good to sort of do a very simple recipe which has, say, black pepper, ginger, cumin, um, lentil, small quantity of lentil made into like a watery, well-cooked soup, and added with tamarind as well. Um, Indigestion can be sort of due to various other causes. So keep an eye and try and understand where it's happening from. Also observe where there are any other triggering factors. So that's mainly digestive system. In relation to say indigestion and associated acidity also can be treated using these same methods. But if it's just acidity because of a pitta imbalance, it's gone on for a very long time, that needs to be addressed like a specific illness at a more advanced stage rather than a digestion related symptom. Now, if we look at the respiratory system, cold, cough, throat irritations, I think we are approaching a season where these are going to be common because we're going into a more kapha vata predominant time of the year, moving from more warmer time towards colder time. That transition phase, usually it's quite difficult. So if there is more mucousy symptoms and immunity is usually an issue, tulsi or basil, holy basil with honey is usually a very good combination. Have it as a tea prepared every day morning. You can get tulsi as organic leaf powder, or use a few drops of its extract along with a teaspoon of a good quality honey and have it like a tea. There might be also, you might have heard that it's not good to heat honey. So that's sort of true, but you're not supposed to boil after adding it to the water. Just add it in the end. Once you prepare the tea with the tulsi, just in the end you can add honey, and that will be helpful. Another one, especially if it is affecting your sound box, if it's going up to your larynx and disturbing, the most common one used in Ayurveda, especially by somebody who is into using their oratory skills very often or singing, etc., is licorice. Licorice tea is quite easily available in all supermarkets here, and also I think quite easily available worldwide. With a little bit of black pepper, again, if you wish to use honey or maple syrup, that's also a good addition to it. And mostly it helps with as a mucolytic, so, and an expectorant. So if there is any congestion there, it will help to bring it back, and mainly helps with the voice and make sure that it is staying intact. It's good to actually use it like in short intervals, like every hour or so, have a small quantity, have it usually uh, good in warm condition to make sure that it is well absorbed, and it helps with the mucousy symptoms. So it is equally suitable for almost all the things I'm mentioning here is equally suitable for adults and children as well. Um, Another very common kind of aches that can appear, especially with a lot of dental appointments being postponed during this lockdown period, will be toothache and gum related issues. I think the most common remedy is to use some kind of topical application that reduces the pain, but the most natural one, which is quite easily available, is clove or clove oil. It will be good for dental related issues. If you hold it, sort of crush it and hold it there with your teeth, clench it with your teeth. Uh, it acts as a natural anesthetic, reduces the intensity of pain, and at the same time, it's a natural antiseptic in nature, so it can help with that reduction of any chronic inflammation or infection happening there. Uh, makes the situation there less favorable for bacteria or other microbes to multiply and further increase the infection. So clove oil is quite good. You can actually do a oil pulling kind of oil pulling in the morning using clove oil mixed with coconut oil and swishing it through your mouth daily if the issue is more sort of spread through the gum, not just in one teeth. Uh, Most joint related issues, the best treatment is oil application. Again, sesame oil is actually quite good. But if you are sort of mostly suffering from uh, cold affecting the joints, and that's mostly a sign of vata imbalance in its beginning stage, slightly advanced, but still when it is appearing for the first few months, you can easily treat it using self oil application and also a hot bath. Um, it usually helps the absorption, and it also helps with circulation. Hence, the body sees less need for this to progress into an inflammation and cause further issue with the joint. So, oil application is quite good. Healthy oils in your diet is also quite important. If you are experiencing sort of joint aches during winter time, it's good to include, say, toasted sesame seeds or other nuts and seeds regularly to supply the body with enough nutrients necessary to strengthen and nourish the joints. Toasted sesame seed can be sprinkled on top of your breakfast or any meal, a teaspoon like once daily, and that should be really good for strengthening the joint, along with oil application and regular bath or hot fermentation. Now, coming to skin and skin issues, I don't want to go into specific symptoms because some of them can be because of long-standing blood impurities or issues related to digestion. It can be deeper level of issues, but uh, common sort of skin symptoms like an allergic reaction to a particular contact or particular food, along with avoiding that particular food and eliminating it from your diet. It's good to include turmeric. Turmeric is anti-inflammatory, a blood purifier, and it's good for balancing the skin quite well. So you can do as a turmeric milk with nut milk or dairy milk if you're comfortable with it, and have it as a hot drink. You like the golden milk, which is quite popular nowadays. If the skin symptom is associated with itching, it can be also something which is quite effective is triphala. Triphala powder, if you make it like a teaspoon, like a 250 ml of water, really hot water, and filter it, take out the water, and use a cotton wool to just apply the Triphala water continuously, quite regularly on the affected area. That can reduce itching and prevent any inflammation from happening. It's also, if there are skin is broken already due to itching or due to any minor sort of inflammation, you can also use Triphala decoction mixed with buttermilk, which is quite good in healing. And once it is healed, the chances of having marks or scars also will be slightly lesser if you do that quickly. So, and mostly very commonly used another herb is aloe vera. Aloe vera is also equally effective in skin related issues, especially rashes or burns, minor burns where there is no skin is still intact, but there can be slight blistering or scarring. Aloe vera can be really good in healing that quite quickly and reducing any scarring. If the itching or any skin irritation is because of fungal origin, or you suspect that there is an external cause, mostly aggravated by sweating or in specific areas like inside our elbow, knee, in the groin area, it is good to use a combination of neem oil. Neem oil is again, recently I saw in most health food stores, neem seed oil mixed with coconut oil. One part neem oil and say 9-part coconut oil. If you mix that, blend it, and apply it a couple of times a day, this can actually act as a natural antiseptic and also keep the skin quite healthy, prevent any itching. It does have a strong smell. You can add, say, natural ingredients like tea tree or some other essential oil to make it a little bit pleasant, but it's quite effective and does tend to sort of give results like in 2 to 3 days time if it is not a very chronic infection. When it comes to Triphala wash, which we mentioned for itching and skin related symptoms, Triphala wash is also quite effective in eye related issues like redness in the eye or irritation in the eyes. Needs to be done very, very carefully because any bits and pieces of herbs going into the eyes could be quite potentially high irritation and highly sort of disturbing. So it is traditionally what we do is prepare like the tea, similarly as we mentioned for the skin use, and allow it to cool down. Definitely cool it down to room temperature, and filter it multiple times, 3 or 4 or 5 times, using thick cotton wool to make sure that there are no particles at all remaining in it from the Triphala. Only the decoction remains, and you can use an eye wash cup or just simply wash using someone else's help to pour it into the eyes. It's perfectly safe to do, very commonly used in India, and that tends to help with minor uh, eye related issues or eye irritation. It is sort of effective in sort of conjunctivitis kind of situations as well, especially if somebody is um, using screens nowadays a lot, and there is not enough eye rest and there is burning sensation and irritation. It's also equally effective in that situation as well. You could also use Triphala powder uh, in a netra bidalaka, which means like an external eye application, where in between 2 layers of cotton, if you apply a Triphala paste and then put it on top of the eyes to give that nice cooling effect to the eyes, that's also quite good in taking care of eye related irritation using Triphala powder. For eyes, it's also effective to use, especially if it is because of eye stress, excessive usage. It's good to do an oil head massage. Might not feel like it's directly related, but mostly the tension from the usage of eye for too long, concentrating on a screen, is usually felt around the eyes and also on the fascia around. So a gentle oil application with doesn't need to be medicated oil, but if you have access to medicated oil, Brahmi oil is quite good and if you apply it, base oil can be sesame or coconut, apply it on the scalp, uh, and that can be also quite good for the eyes. So I think we quickly touched at common ailments. There are also all kind of different issues where there are common Ayurvedic remedies available to treat the symptoms before it progresses further. So uh, do comment under the video, and we will try our best to add more information to it. I hope you got an idea where it is used and why this is utilized and when it is most effective in terms of the stage of the disease, and where to find basically the commonly used spices and garden sourced home remedies for Ayurveda. In the next class, we will look at deeper imbalances which has affected and gone into deeper layers, and how we can use simple remedies to almost get the same effect of panchakarma or cleansing, staying at home, using Ayurvedic knowledge of diet, fasting, oil application, etc. So we'll look into more deeper cleansing and treatments. And thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.